Last week, the city of Lloydminster announced that the entire city would be following Saskatchewan's guidelines to reopen the province. And I'm joined by Mayor Aalbers. Thanks for taking some time to talk with me today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And we're going to talk about some of the phases and stuff. But first, I just wanted to talk about the kind of process the city went through to decide that they were going to follow the Saskatchewan plan.
So from the outset, we have been following the Saskatchewan state of emergency as the provincial through the Department of Health, or the Health Public Emergency, which led to our state of local emergency. So we had been in consultation with the government of Saskatchewan. They had been in consultation with us. We had been talking to Saskatchewan Health Authority here in the city, as well as city staff, and mainly city staff through our incident management team that has been overseeing the state of emergency, as well as other members of city administration. A report was brought forward that said to council to take a look at, to say that we see that the numbers are low. This is what Saskatchewan's looking at doing, and to keep the city as whole as possible. And this is the challenge that we have, because we try to be one city. Yes, we are on two provinces, but everything the city does, we try to apply municipal standards across the city. And it was felt by city council and in consultation with administration, this would be the best action to take forward to ensure that the city was kept whole, because you could appreciate how much difficulty we would have treating 1/3 of the city one way and 2/3 of the city the other way. When people live on the Saskatchewan side, work in Alberta, and vice versa, we have one city, and we could not establish a boundary one way or another, that we had to make a decision. And we felt that based on the information that was provided, based on the knowledge that each and every business will have to make their individual choice whether they open or not. No matter what the phases are, which we'll talk about, it's still up to the respective individual business owner, staff, and customers to keep that safety factor in mind for all three. And I know it's a tough decision for businesses, because I've heard from businesses asking why. Others have said, can we move forward? And if the rules are followed, they can, and we can go through that from this point on.
And you said you heard some businesses asking why. Were they asking why we weren't opening, or why maybe they weren't opening faster? What were the questions?
I've heard all the questions from businesses concerned about why they should open, or why was that permission being granted. Other businesses saying they felt their businesses should open sooner. We've run into all sorts of questions from people, and we're trying to answer those questions as quick as we can, and put some explanation to the reasoning behind. I know not everyone is exactly satisfied with the decision of even opening, and I do understand that, and that's why I'll say it again. It's up to individual business owners. If they feel that they can safely provide for their staff and their customers, as long as they follow the outlined phases, they can open. If they don't feel safe that they can open their business safely and they want to protect their customers, that's their choice.
And so now let's starting to talk about some of these phases. So phase one, there's a few parts, but starting on May 4th, there's going to be some allowable businesses like medical services that opened. Can you just kind of go through some of the details of how this phased opening will occur?
So from what I understand, we're following the Saskatchewan model as it's been laid out, and it's quite extensive from the government of Saskatchewan, but it involves starting with dentistry, optometrists, chiropractors, and that group of medical professionals that are able to offer services to people. Because again, we've heard people are in distress, because unless it's an emergency and a dentist is able to pull your tooth in some cases, and I don't want to get too specific, but that's what I've understood from talking to various people. So now at the same time, the dentist has to ensure that he or she can maintain the proper safety protocols that they need to go through that step, as would the chiropractor, optometrist, and anyone else that's involved in that first round. Again, our bi-provincial nature will also challenge some professionals, I understand, due to the licensing of which province they're licensed in to operate. So it's not as clear cut as everybody would like it to be, one way or the other. It does allow, but it depends on where you're licensed as an individual.
And in that phase one, something that comes a little bit later on is the golf courses. And I understand that includes the Lloydminster Golf and Curling Club. So they're going to open. What kind of changes do you think are going to be coming when that course opens later on?
So the first way I'll explain that is if conditions permitting. So the golf course needs to be ready. So there is work being done currently, but we do not have an actual firm date of opening for May 15th yet, but we will advise the public once that's ready. What I understand, as an example of things that are outlined again that the province of Saskatchewan has basically mandated, is one cart rider per cart. So if you're going golfing with someone else, you want to take carts, you will be one person per cart. You will not have a flag to remove because the pin will be raised, so you don't have to touch the flagpole. Things like that. So some very basic, just as we've been talking about, keeping a 2-meter distance from people, maintaining a social distance. And again, you would have your own clubs, not sharing clubs, ensuring that you sanitize your hands each and every opportunity that you have, and things like that. So it's just, those are the safety protocols that will be put in place and encouraged throughout the golfing season until the rules change in that perspective.
And I know also in phase 1, campgrounds are going to be reopening in the province of Saskatchewan at a 50% capacity. So there'll be like spaces in between sites and stuff. I know that there was a restriction to Saskatchewan residents only. Do you know if residents of either side in Lloydminster are going to be able to go to campgrounds in Saskatchewan?
From the information I've received, no, not provincial campgrounds. From the perspective that Weaver Park is a campground in the municipality, we will be practicing social distancing there as well, leaving every second site open. But from the provincial information I've received to this point and looking at the Government of Saskatchewan announcement, it will be for Saskatchewan residents only. But again, I would encourage people to check the Saskatchewan government website and inquire with Parks Saskatchewan if they have any questions, because that is the authority that's responsible for those parks.
All right. And then finally, just before we go, why was it important to try and follow the Saskatchewan plan and try and get the city reopening?
Well, I think that from the perspective that the city council looked at, as through the administration and the information they gathered, that we could open potentially and stay consistent with the health provider where the hospital is located, and we have looked to Saskatchewan Health Authority and the government of Saskatchewan's protocols and all the information that's been brought forward to this point being the strictest. Their numbers were low, as reflected from what we've seen in the northern region of Saskatchewan Health Authority's reporting of COVID-19. So from that perspective, in the discussions, it was felt that we could, as a city, be treated as one, as we talked about earlier. And I think that's what the decision was from that perspective. We know that there's been a great deal of an economic hurt for people. We also understand COVID-19 is a true and present danger that we have to deal with. So by mitigating the risks and following all the procedures and the numbers that we've seen to this point reported through the northern region of Saskatchewan Health Authority, it was felt that we could start to reintroduce the economy back into our community, allow people to have that ability to procure other items outside the essential list that was first provided. I know there's people suffering with back pain. There's people suffering with work that needs to be done in the dentist. There's other people that would like to buy merchandise that they'd actually like to see before they bought it on the internet. So by doing the steps that are being laid out, namely phase 1 and phase 2, it will give people the opportunity to return to some semblance of normal. And it's going to be a very long summer. I think I can tell people that from the perspective that the other phases that the government of Saskatchewan has introduced are some time out. We have no time frame past phase 2, which is the return of some more retail stores. So again, social distancing will be practiced. And I need to reinforce that one more time. It's so important that everything we've been doing to this point will continue to happen. You need to maintain social distancing, not gather in groups of more than 10. The province of Saskatchewan, through the health authority, has indicated that a family may actually get together now, but it's important that we keep our circles small and keep them consistent rather than mixing circles. So people can't be entertaining different people each and every night, even though it's only 2 or 4 people, because the chance of transmission increases. If you know your family in a couple homes in the city have not been affected by COVID and no one's showing any symptoms, it's reasonable to gather in that group, maybe once or twice a week, more than you have been in the past. But we do not want to see additional groups start to get duplicated over and over again. And that's what's so important, is people understand that, because we're still in a battle, and it's not won, but we're trying to bring some semblance of normal back to people's lives, as well as, again, provide for their needs through being able to potentially work, or be an employee, be a business owner, or be it a consumer that you're trying to obtain some sort of goods.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk with me about this exciting news, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you, and thank you again for your coverage and relaying the information to people as best as you can. I know it's challenging from our perspective. It's challenging for you folks as well, but we appreciate the support.